It looks like cheaper Nvidia GPU prices are coming very soon, but I have good news and I also have some bad news. If you guys saw a few weeks ago, Nvidia did a pretty significant price drop. I mean, prices have been going down for the last several months, and of course, they still weren't low enough, in my opinion, for people to really buy. The MSRP prices got so high that even when they come down a substantial amount, the GPUs are really way too expensive, especially since you have to remember RTX 4000 is going to be here any day now. Probably within a month or two, we're going to have some more information, at least on the 4090. First, let's talk about some of the good news, and then I'm going to talk about some of the bad news. So if you guys missed the sale that they had a few weeks ago, remember when the 3090 Ti went down to $1149? That's the EVGA for the Win 3. Sure, even if you don't want a 3090 Ti, and maybe a lot of people don't, and it's really expensive, that means that other GPUs like a 3080, maybe even 3070s, got squeezed down in price a little bit more. Keep in mind that most of the GPUs getting these price reductions are going to be the higher end GPUs. You don't see anywhere near the percentage of the decrease in prices in GPUs like the 3060 or 3070. Most of these are going to be on the really expensive ones. So having said that, I mean, Nvidia even is producing again the RTX 3080 12GB because they have so many GA102 dies to produce GPUs with that they just can't get rid of them fast enough. And of course, if they bring back the 12GB 3080, they can make a lot more GPUs with that die, as well as 3080 Ti's and those type of high-end GPUs. So the good news is we're going to see even lower pricing. It looks like Nvidia will be willing to go even lower in order to really pave the way for a release of RTX 4000. Imagine if they try to release a 4090 and they have a massive overstock, which they do right now, of like 3090 Ti's and 3090s and even 3080s. People are going to say, why am I going to pay the high MSRP of a 4090? And it's probably going to be pretty high, somewhere I would guess between the original 3090, like 1500, to maybe 2000. That's what the 3090 Ti was after all. Is Nvidia going to be bold enough to reduce that price back down to 1500? I'm not so sure, but in the meantime, the good news is they have to reduce the pricing on RTX 3000. Doesn't necessarily mean you buy now, but if you do see a window where the GPU is extremely cheap, it may not be such a bad idea. Here's why. GPU pricing is really sporadic. That's why I make all these videos. Some days it may be really expensive, and then out of nowhere, we have a sale like we saw from EVGA where the GPU is literally $1,000 off, but that sale really only lasted a few days, sometimes a few hours, depending on the GPUs. It's not as bad as when it was originally released, when GPUs went out of stock a few seconds, but when you have a GPU priced low enough, you could see that 3090 Ti at $1149, it seemed to sell actually because EVGA quickly raised the price back up to like $1399. So that didn't last, for weeks and weeks. It only lasted maybe for a few hours, a few days at most. So that's something to keep in mind. You have a little bit of a window in time when these prices go down. If you happen to catch it at a really low price, it's possible the prices may stabilize there. But remember, with RTX 4000 coming out, certainly isn't a good idea to buy a GPU unless you just happen to get an amazingly fantastic price. Will Nvidia drop the prices of some of these high-end GPUs so it's this fantastic price level? I mean, a 3090 Ti, of course, everybody agrees that it is a good GPU, but it's too expensive. What price is it a good GPU even now? Even if I told you RTX 4090 is going to come out at $1,500, let's say next month, what price does a 3090 Ti make sense? Of course, 99% of the time, you're going to say avoid that. It's going to be easily obsoleted by the new 4090 if you want a high-end GPU. But what if it's cheap enough? What if that 3090 Ti got all the way down to maybe $700? Let's say less than half the price of a 4090. Is that still going to be enough of a difference for you to want that 4090 because it's newer? Or could you put that $800 to work somewhere else in your system? Keep in mind the difference between the 3090 Ti and the 4090 in terms of traditional rasterization. It's going to be there, of course. It's going to be probably a little bit significant in some cases, but it's not going to be like the end of the world. It's not like the 4090 is 10 times faster than the 3090 Ti. In ray tracing, it may prove to be better yet, but still, that's a pretty massive price difference. What about $600? Would we ever see a 3090 Ti for $500? Maybe a little window in time if it's really, really discounted that low, but I don't really think so. I mean, mean, I didn't think it was going to go down to 1149, to be honest. It just released in January, and Nvidia took off at pretty much $1,000 off for like EVGA. So I don't think that's going to happen necessarily as low as that. But if the market continues to get badly enough, there's one key factor that could actually make that a reality. Remember, Ethereum is going to go proof of stake next month in September. If that happens, and people can't mine anymore, that's going to cause a massive GPU flood on the market. Right now, people are still kind of holding back. Nobody really knows what's going on. But if the big sort of, mining operations start to sell their GPUs in really, really large quantities, we're going to see 3090 and 3090 Ti's maybe for as low as $500 or $600 on the used market. That's going to be a very real possibility. I mean, you already see 3090s for like $800 to $900, which I really didn't think was going to happen that quickly, but we're definitely seeing them. Imagine a massive extinction event, if you will, when people don't have a use anymore for mining with these GPUs. That's going to cause a really, really huge issue in the market. So then it's going to be up to Nvidia how they respond with the new generation and how low on the retail brand new MSRPs these prices will go down to. All right, so that's basically the good news, is that prices are definitely continuing to go down, and we're going to see at least one more major round of a price reduction, I think, before the RTX 4000 comes out. Who knows how cheap these GPUs will be, and especially I want to see if the cheaper GPUs like the 3060 and 3070 will get any cheaper by any significant value. I don't think those are going to be affected nearly as much. It really seems like Nvidia is definitely trying to get rid of the high-end stuff, like from 3080, 12 gigabyte and above. That seems to be where they have way too many of them, and it makes sense. They're going to release the 4090 first. That's going to be sort of the same market that the people who bought 3090s are going to be sort of, speculating in and looking in. So it makes sense that they have way too many of the more expensive GPUs, not to mention they're a different price bracket. We're going to have to see how low these prices could go. But the good news is I think we're going to get one more significant round of price cuts. And of course, as a general statement, I still don't recommend you buy anything, even if the price goes down significantly more, unless a few things happen, unless RTX 4000 is really expensive and that difference just isn't worth it, or if you can get that RTX 3000 cheaply enough and it fits your needs and it's a very good value, then it actually might make sense for you to grab one of these sales. Remember, these sales often end and prices can definitely change, even with a new release on the horizon. That's where we get to the bad news. Even though the good news is there's another round of price cuts coming, I think the bad news eventually is going to be that these are probably going to be temporary. We're going to see some pretty big sales on RTX 3000, but as we get into the actual release of RTX 4000, I think we're going to see those high MSRP prices return once again, because even if there isn't the same level of demand as previously there was during the last 2 years, maybe Nvidia might just produce less of them in order to keep it on par with the demand levels and just making it a little bit more sparse in the market. So that can definitely happen, but after the glut of the current GPUs are sold, I think prices will definitely trend back up, not only for RTX 4000, that's where the bad news comes in. I think in the future, from whatever prices are low now, we could see RTX 3000 maintain higher pricing. After all, Nvidia did say they wanted to sell both side by side, and look at what happens with some of these sales. You may see an RTX 3090 Ti one day for $1149, maybe you check 5 hours later, it's back to $1399. So within a span of a day or a few hours, you have these massive swings in GPU prices. I think the same thing may happen on a macro level as we head into RTX 4000. Let's say you may see a 3090 Ti as an example. Let's say if it went as cheap as $900, that could be the cheapest you see it retail until later on. Maybe it might jump back up to $1,100 or $1,200 beside the RTX 4000. What if RTX 4000 has a limited amount compared to the demand that's out there? What if something else happens with crypto? There are a lot of sort of, unpredictable factors, especially in the current world that we live in, that could really change that math. So just remember, keep that in mind. But in general, prices are going to be low for the next month or two compared to when RTX 4000 comes out. And when that comes out, I think prices will creep back up and they're going to be sold side by side. After all, Nvidia might be concerned with that initial launch of RTX 4000 so it goes well. And after they stabilize some sales of RTX 4000, they may just kind of stop producing as many RTX 3000 and just try to keep those a little bit higher priced so their brand stays at a premium. All right, guys, so let me know what you think. Definitely a bit of the good mixed with the bad. You may see some really low GPU prices, but unless they're extremely low, I would still avoid buying almost at all costs unless you see just a very, very good deal, or we get some more information that's positive on the RTX 4000 side towards the RTX 3000. That may make sense to get something, but for the most part, you definitely want to wait more. And if you see them really low, remember that can change very quickly and we could see higher prices in the future. All right, guys, so remember to subscribe, smash that like button, and I'll see you guys on the next video.